Hello, everybody, and welcome to Josie's Art School, episode number 186, How to Draw a Curious Chameleon. So I know a lot of my friends out there really love drawing lizards and reptiles, and so I started thinking about how I could add some more of those types of drawings into our repertoire. Now, if you are joining me over here because you have purchased an art kit, I am so glad that you're here. In your art kit, you will see an example or two of the different ways that we can draw the chameleon. Now, for the most part, I'm going to align with the way this chameleon is. But as you can see with this other example, you could make your chameleon a bit smaller and put two in your drawing. So with these pages, they are 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper. I am using an 11 by 14 piece of paper, and also keep in mind that I could do it landscape or portrait where I could make a really big chameleon. I'm going to go ahead and do it landscape though. Okay, so let me show you what it is that I have that we are working on with today. All right, let's check it out. So I, as always, I'm using a few different types of materials. You can feel free to use these as well. In the art kit, if you purchase that, you have tempera paint, but feel free to add more to your project if you want to, because with the canvas, you actually can use all different types of mediums like watercolor paints, crayons, markers. Now, I will say that what works best on canvases are watercolor paint or oil paint or acrylic paints, tempera paints, but you can surely add them on as well and just have a different type of texture to it. So I am using the Artist Loft watercolor paints. I am also using the oil pastels by Daler and Rowney. Both of these can be found at your local craft stores. I have a Michael's nearby. And then, of course, I have my trusty 64 crayon Crayola. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. When I start to draw, I like to grid my paper with dashes. So I'm going to put lines down the middle, going both ways, so I can set exactly where I want to put the full body onto my project so that it sits on there fairly evenly. Now, you don't have to do that. That's just something I like to do, but I would encourage you to do that if you want to make sure you're putting everything specifically the way you want it. Because have you ever tried to draw something and you realize, oh, I haven't left enough space at the top for maybe a hat or the legs on the bottom? Well, that would be one of the reasons why, because you need to kind of have in your mind's eye a sense of where you're going before you end up somewhere you don't actually want to be, right? Philosophy in life, philosophy in painting. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start. Now, funny thing is, when you see the way that I start, it almost looks like I'm making an arrow. Now, you wouldn't have to necessarily do this because you would have an eraser. But because I'm using a Sharpie, I'm going to have to improvise a little bit once I get going with this drawing. But for right now, I'm above the line in that first quadrant on the left, and I'm creating a triangle. Let me get closer so you can see it. Okay. Now from there, I'm going to actually make it look even more like an arrow, because I'm going to make, it almost looks like a rectangle, but I'm not going to close the line here, right? You could turn this around and make it a rocket if you wanted to. All right, so from here, I'm then going to allow this line on the top to swirl around. So you see where this is going? It almost looks like the swirling of the tail, right? So I've got my line here, triangle, two parallel lines. I've extended out the top line right there. And then I'm going to add a little bit of a curve right here. So I'm going to swirl the end of the tail, okay? Now, once I've done that swirl, I'm going to bring it back around. And I'm I'm going to come back around, but do you notice how I've kind of let this line go a little bit wide so I could fatten the body right here, right? So that's something you can think about as you do it. Then I'm going to add the space where I'm going to elongate the legs. Then I'm going to add a few more lines, almost like it's armor. And then I'm going to make something that almost looks like a pincher. See that? All right, so there's your base right there. And then now you can get very creative, because I don't know if you've seen a chameleon before, either in the in the wild, I should say, or maybe at your local riparian reserve, or even at your zoo, but they actually come in all different shapes and sizes. And then of course it's a chameleon. So you remember what a chameleon means. It means that it can change its color and change and it can camouflage wherever it is. But as you can see with these, we took a lot of license to make a lot more color come alive on this chameleon. So let me go ahead and add the eye, a rather large eye here. And then as you can see, start to take the curve. So I made more of a straight line on those, the edges of that triangle. Well, now you can soften that line by kind of curling it, rounding it off, and then you can build, if you don't have an eraser handy, you can build that into the pattern of your chameleon. Now, of course, we want to add the mouth, add a little dot for the nostril, and maybe, just to be really cute, add a tongue. All right, so from there, I would start to think about what I want on the back of my chameleon. Maybe almost having a lizard kind of look. Now, you don't have to do this pattern if you don't want to. You could also add triangles within the body. I'm doing a little bit of a combination of both of these examples here. You could also add circles. Now with this one, there's actually lines where they alternate different patterns on the chameleon's back and body. And you can feel free to do that as well. Now, a lot of times I won't put all the patterns that I'm being inspired to do, because I want to add them in with my crayons rather than drawing it out line by line. Okay, so let's now add a place where the chameleon is, right? Because right now he looks like he's just flying in the air, which is a little bit silly. So what we're going to do is we're going to have him look like he is on some sort of tree branch. So the quickest way to do that is to make two parallel lines. But if you want to have a little more authenticity to it, you also want to add some sort of texture inside as well. And you could make it so that there's a tree right behind him, or it could just be a straight line right here, where the tree is actually going someplace. So here's my line right here. So I might want to make the tree end right there. Now, you could then also add a smaller chameleon right there if you wanted to. You don't have to. Or you could add some sort of pattern in the sky. Maybe your chameleon is bathing, sunbathing, right? All right, so that's the basis of what we're going to do. And again, you can see that lots of different designs have been added. So you could do different colors in the background. You could add some leaves. You could add more branches onto where it is that the chameleon is sitting. So feel free to make that drawing exactly the way you feel inspired to do so. Now, many times when I'm in an art class, I will invite my students to pick up the paper that they have and put it right in front of them and see whether or not maybe you see a space where you could add a little bit more. Like, for example, maybe you want to add some branches or a leaf coming out of the mouth here, right? Depending on how hungry you think he is. Or, even as I'm doing this, what if I added a butterfly? So again, you can get as silly as you want to get with that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start adding color to this. I like to really play with color. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick up an oil pastel and I'm just going to start to add that color, the red that I've chosen, randomly on the body of the chameleon. Right? Sometimes when you get started, if maybe you're a little fearful about using different colors, just encourage yourself to just pick one and start. Okay, so there's my red. I'm going to add a little bit of peach or flesh color. And even as I'm coloring on top of the red, you see how it's starting to change the color. So I'm actually doing a little bit of color blending here. All right. And from there, if you have the art kit, you'll notice that there is a color wheel in your kit. So you can create your own colors as well, or your own secondary colors, because what you have in the kit are primary colors. And then just add them as you see fit. Now, another challenge you could do is maybe pick just 2 or 3 colors and only use those 2 or 3 colors throughout the process. Because sometimes less is more, and it then keeps your focus on the one important thing based on how you fill the space with color. So let's say, for example, you just wanted us to look at the chameleon. Maybe we make that chameleon all red. Now, it kind of defeats the purpose of a chameleon being all red if everything else is a different color. So what if you made everything red? If you've watched some of my other videos, you may have heard me tell a story that there was a student in my class and her favorite color was red. And so literally any time she created something, she only painted or colored it, whether it be with crayons or with markers, red. And she had this beautiful red coat that would remind you of a character. I think her name is Madeline. And so she would wear that coat every day. And since I teach in an outdoor classroom, it would be chilly sometimes. So she would wear that coat out into the classroom, all red, and then she would sit and she would only color or paint with red. It was quite delightful, actually. I thought, how refreshing. You've chosen your color for life and you're sticking with it. Now, so far, it's still her favorite color. I've been painting alongside for her for over a month now. So we'll see. I'll keep you posted if she happens to change the color. But yeah, so far, that's all that she uses. So I wonder if you have a story like that. Was there a time in your life where you only used one color? Now, the fun part about colors, as you may well know, is that every red is not alike. So you really could create this whole thing in red, and then just depending on what you used, whether it be colored pencil or marker or crayon or watercolor paint or tempera paint, you could have your red looking different based on what material that you used. All right, we'll see. So right now, that's where I'm going with my chameleon. She is all red, ruby red, I'll call her. All right, so from here, if I want to keep with my challenge, I will then pick one color that I can add on the tree. Maybe I will just add a tint of red to it so it still keeps the integrity of the chameleon where it's kind of hidden in plain sight. We'll see. You'll be the judge of it up on the screen as to whether or not I accomplish what I'm setting out to do. So have you ever been to a birthday party or an event where someone's theme is all about reptiles? I had a daughter who had a friend who adored reptiles. And so every year, like literally every year, the same company would come out and bring the snakes and the spiders and you know, it delighted my daughter's friend every time to have these people come out because it was like, you know, for 2 hours, these were in essence her pets at her own home. And it was quite fun, you know, because especially with girls, there are times where you tend to go to the same parties over and over again. But this friend never disappointed us. We always could count on her to bring the reptiles. So here we are right now, and see how I picked a warmer shade to go along with that red, and it actually blends in very nicely. Now, if I now want to do something in the background, I could go a couple of different ways. I could maybe add a blend of the red and the brown together. I could even go with a black and really make the chameleon pop on the page. That's actually something I haven't done for a while, is just use black. So let's see what that would look like. And again, I hope this encourages you to try different things. You know, if you've just happened onto my YouTube channel, welcome. We have, as I said, over 180 videos here of different art lessons that I've done over the last few years. And I do post videos at least 2 to 3 times a week. And so you can try doing this many different ways if you want to. I mean, who knows? Maybe one of your favorite things to do is to draw chameleons and to create this type of happy art. Same thing with those of you who purchased the art kit. You have the instructions in your kit as well. So you can come back again and again and listen to me on the video, or you can simply use the instructions that are in your art box. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go ahead and look in the comments or check me out on Instagram. And my information for all the art kits I have available are listed there. Yes, I'm actually very pleased with how this is coming out, and I hope that you feel the same about how yours is coming together. And I'm hoping I'm giving you a sense that you don't have to necessarily use every single crayon, how do they say, every single crayon in your box, every single paint on your watercolor paint tray to get a lovely and pleasing effect for your project. Okay, put my finishing touches here. All right. Now, what will I do with that butterfly? What do you think? Should I keep it very subtle and see if anybody notices that it's there? I kind of think that I will. All right, my friends. Well, thank you so much for dropping by. Please make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. As I say, if you put on the notification bell, you'll know right away when I have uploaded a video, which I do at least 2 to 3 times a week. And check out those art kits if you would like to have those right in front of you as we go along this process. And I just appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Bye.